The champs is here.
Yo, we out here on the track where the dreamers run. Each step a testament, here we get it done. Crushing all the hurdles, breaking through the pain. The Texas sun shines bright as we train in the lane. Push it to the limit, never look back. Texas Track Dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. From Dallas to Houston, yeah, we're raising the bar. Every athlete's story, every victory a star. We hustle on the field, focus sharp like a spear. The clock's ticking down, but the finish line is near. With every single stride, we own the sound. Texas Track Dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. From Dallas to Houston, yeah, we're raising the bar. Every athlete's story, every victory a star. We hustle on the field, focus sharp like a spear. The clock's ticking down, but the finish line is near. With every single stride, we own the sound. Texas Track Dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. So lace up your shoes, let the journey commence. Texas Track Dad, we build the suspense.
What is going on, guys? We are back for a good show today. Y'all gonna love this show. So coaches, make sure you grab that pen and pad. You're probably gonna take some notes on this show. We got a good one with Coach Huntress here. But before we kick this off, I want to give a shout out to my one of my sponsors there, Wear Bands. If you looking to build some speed, strength, go ahead and check out Wear Bands there, wearbands.com. Go ahead and check them out there. Also, shout out to my guy over there at Trackborn, Carl. I see he was down there at Texas Relays doing some announcing there. Oh, shout out to him. He's definitely doing some big things there. And also, coaches, if you haven't got access to my unsigned senior database, go ahead. It's about 61, 62 athletes in there right now, steady climbing every day. So go ahead and jump in there. Let's help find these kids some homes as well. All right. So let's bring them on. We got a good show today. What's up, Coach? What's going on?
Doing great. Happy to be here. I'm very excited.
Hey, I'm excited. I want to tell you, Coach, that bio, that was one of the best bios.
I've done a lot. I've had a crazy life. And so, it's funny. A lot of people know me from a lot of different places. So, yeah, my background's all over. You can call me coach, but I don't consider myself coach. I defer to my kids' coaches. I know, okay. and I have coached, but no. And yes, I actually went through my recertification of USATF this week. So but I keep that just so because our coach doesn't travel, so that I can be at U20s. I can be the coach of record for some kids that we know. So yeah. So that they're not on their own. And I do it also so that when we're at Nike and places like that, we always have our coach doesn't always travel, Paul Carrozza, and so I'm always around to do that, to make sure you've always got a kid who first time at Hayward Field, and they're just like, eyes are this big. And they don't know what to do, and their parents can't get past. So you're like, okay, here you go. And you walk them down, you walk them around and give them stuff. And I've had the fortunate, doing that one time, I've run into like Coach McCrae and Dabbs and everybody, So it's one of those great things. I fortunately get to meet all these people, but yes.
Yeah. And speaking of Coach McCrae, he had commented on that flyer I made that you was coming on the show. Was going to be a good show. He might chime in here. I don't know if he's watching or not. But that Hayward Field, it could be mind blowing for Well, those new that place is huge. I love it though. That track is nice.
Yeah, I guess you'll go back out for Big Tens again in a couple weeks.
Yeah, well, we'll be so conference is in Nebraska this year.
Oh, it is in Nebraska. I
Yeah,
thought it was
yeah,
so
yeah.
my
So yeah,
yeah. So I
yeah.
didn't know. We're not. So yeah, and then NCAA is out there, and I'll be out there for U20s and Nike. But yeah, I love that place. I go to Oregon as much as possible because I love watching great track. In
Mhm.
22, my kids were at camp, and I talked to my wife, and I saw world championship tickets were going cheap. I flew out with miles and
Uh-huh,
rented somebody's back house, their back room,
uh-huh.
and stayed there and walked to the stadium every day and had a blast by
Oh
myself and
yeah,
went to Worlds
yeah.
for like 4 days. And so, yeah, I love going. I just found out today my niece is going to Oregon. She'll be a
Oh
freshman
really?
next
Okay.
year.
Yeah,
She's not going
yeah,
to be on the
yeah.
track team, but
Uh-huh.
she's going to go out there. So it gives me more reasons to go out there.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I'm just like that too. Any chance I can get it to go out there, I did. I definitely go out there. That place is it's amazing for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Like I say, you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was reading that bio. I was like, yeah, you a
Yeah.
busy guy. You a busy guy.
Yeah. So, I grew up with a tennis background. I grew up in San Antonio. I was a tennis player, you know, played at a Division II school for a year, ended up leaving, transferred to Texas, was asked to walk on, but didn't. But I played college tennis. I grew up in the background, went to state, did all those things, used to travel for tennis. That was my life as a kid. And then I worked in tennis. But about the thing that got me into the craziness of all this, most coaches know me from high school football. And, back in 93, I wrote a program to rank high school football teams in Texas. I wrote an algorithm. I'm just a big nerd. That's what I am. And, we said we would talk about nerdy stuff here some, but I wrote a program to rank high school football teams back in 93, started the website sixmanfootball.com. And so, for the last 18 years, Craig Way and I, have done the state championship games, whether they're
Mhm.
at AT&T. Most of the time we're up there, or we're doing them out of the Fox studio or Fox Sports Southwest. Now it went to Bally's, then it went to
Mhm.
FanDuel. We've had a million names of who
Yeah.
broadcast those games. But, I finally got out of that a few years ago. I still broadcast the game, still follow it. I'm friends with a ton of coaches in the Class 1A. Mike Reed, the Stanalans out of Jayton, those guys. I mean, Mike Reed is one of the best coaches of any sport. And he's a fantastic track coach as well. And this is one thing I'll say is, Mike
Mhm.
Reed's won back-to-back or 3 state championships at Gordon, just over the last few years. They've had a
Mhm.
phenomenal basketball team. And his track team's won the last few years. And his
Mhm.
son Striker is going to go run in college. He's got a bunch of kids going to D1 schools.
Mhm.
And he took his kids to Nike last year. Class
Mhm.
1A school took their kids to Nike to get that experience. And that was
Mhm.
huge. That was fun. I saw him out there. We chatted, spent a lot of time. And then Sean Stanaland, who's a kid from Jayton who won the 1A 800, he's a 152 kid, but he was the MVP of the state basketball tournament this year. He signed to run track at Texas State. And so his
Mm.
dad took him out to Nike as well. These are kids that are just phenomenal athletes, and I've just always followed them. And so, my life transitioned. I've got kids. They My oldest was a tennis player. My kids played every sport,
Uh-huh.
and he wanted to quit tennis. He just got tired of it. He was like, "These kids don't go to school. They're at these academies." He's just fed
Uh,
up with it. And I go, "What are you going to do?" And he's like, "Well, I had fun on the middle school track team last year. I was pretty fast." And it's a social event. Middle school track should be a social event. And,
it should. I
so
agree.
it should be like they get to be with the girls. They all hang out just waiting for their next event, and they just cheer each other on. And it's just a party like it should be. At least that's the way it was run around our place. So, he ran and he wanted to play basketball. So he made the
Mhm.
basketball team. He ran track and he started setting all the school records. And he was like, I might be pretty good at this. So it was school year ends and these guys go, a bunch of the kids, they want to run, but they don't want to join a club. Like they just, no, we don't want to train. We just want to go to meets. Can you get us into meets? And I was like, yeah. So I started looking it up, direct athletics, Coach O, everything. I started learning. And I realized I had to start an AAU team. So I started an AAU team. We had no name. We got to the first meet. We were called we were called Huntress. That's what the name of our team was. And I was like, kids, you got to come up with a name. And so we came up with the North Austin Antelope. And I bought $4 singlets off champion.com and shorts matching. So the kids would all have, and I just texted parents and said, who wants to run this week? I'll enter you. And my requirement was you had to run at least one event and one field event because we're going to be there. And so you need to be busy. You need to do something. And so we did that. And the kids would run and they had a blast. They played basketball all summer. They didn't, but my son and all of the kids qualified for AAU regionals. A couple of my son ended up qualifying for nationals in high jump and the 400. And so we had no idea. So we entered him in it. He went to summer camp for 3 weeks, did not run. We go to AAU nationals. He comes just a hair from becoming an All-American in the high jump. And then, the same day, it was just disaster in the 400. It's one of those days where it rains all day and you never know when you're running. And, it was just a great learning experience, though. But we had a blast in North Carolina at A&T, and he gets back. And he's like, I'm going to do this. And so he joined the cross country team and all those guys trained with Paul Carrozza, who we had been trying to get him to run with, who we knew. And so that's how it started. And both my kids ended up doing that, but they've played every sport growing up. And that's how I got into track. That's how I got into like having my own, it's the whole thing, honey, I did this. Honey, I bought a track team is what I did at one point, and I started my own AAU team. But yeah.
See, you are a coach.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And so my thing about it is now with our team, I organize the meets. So like, if I put out the schedule, you know how it is. We don't have a very, we have a good club, but it's just training. It's a lot of training. And, when you get to the off season, like right now, you need, and during indoor season, kids want to keep running. They championship season, a lot of them lost, and they want to know how they can run a few more races to the summer. And so I go through Coach O, I go through all the websites, and I put together all the events that are close by. I put together a list of national events or like bigger events that they would like to go to. I do it for indoor season. I do it for outdoor season. And then the parents, we can enter them for them. We just start entering them. They go on their own, so I help organize in that manner. But I'm an organizer. I learned, coming from tennis, I think I learned something, the Bryan brothers, the famous doubles team, their dad, I used to get to spend a lot of time with him, and he never let his boys play when they played in the finals, which but he said, you never ask your kid, he always had these things about, coaching your kid or like being with your kid. And he said, when a kid comes off the court or comes off the field, you never ask them about the race. The first thing you should ask them is, are you hungry? What would you like to eat? Because they'll either go no or whatever, but you're not saying, oh my God, how was your race? And so I've kind of tried, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I try to adopt that philosophy of like, I'm not going to ask them about their race unless I say, hey, awesome. And I say, are you hungry? Do you need anything? And then if they want to talk about it, they can talk about it. So that's kind of my philosophy as a parent.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because that's kind of the way I operate too. With my daughter, when I get a chance to go see her run or whatnot, I really don't talk track unless she bring it up. Especially like when we go to meets, when we at the meet, when her race is done, she'll come find me and mom in the stands or whatnot. she come over there and we'll talk about anything else but what she just did. You know?
Yeah. And if she or they want to talk about it, they'll talk about it. Like
Oh
if
yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
I mean, more than anything, we talk about the roommates. We talk because
Mhm.
he lives in a track house, at Michigan, with
Mhm.
there's 7 of them,
Mhm.
and most of them are at Penn Relays right now. But he's got an exam tomorrow morning, so he's not at Penn
Mm.
Relays. And but you just tend to talk to him about those kind of things, or just like they're going on with life. Like my son's got a
Yeah.
job this summer in Chicago,
Mhm.
an internship, and so he's
Mhm.
excited about that. And he really spent a lot of his mental capital trying to get this job or trying to get a job. And so
Yeah.
it's in this economy, these kids are stressed about a lot of other things. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
my point is I'm there to support him, whatever he
Yeah.
wants. You know, um, we actually, I don't know if we want to talk about this now, but you were talking about mental health.
Mhm.
My son has not had the college career that he's always wanted, you know,
Mhm.
and he's he's having a great career life. Like he's a great student. He's at Michigan making great grades. He's got a fantastic job. He's going to have a great career. Um, he's made phenomenal teammates. He loves his team, but
Mhm.
his results haven't been there. It's no
Yeah.
big deal. It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
But he wanted to take this semester, like indoor season was a fiasco.
Mhm.
He would feel good and then he'd race horribly. And he just said, I'm going to ask coach if I can take the semester off. I'm going to
Mm.
train, but I want to get right before my senior year. I want
Yeah.
to reach all those goals I set out for my senior year. And I just need some time to refocus. And so he was nervous about asking Coach Sully. And I was like, he called me and I said, I'll give you a little secret. You're not the first kid to walk into his office and say, I'm not running fast. Can I
Yeah.
not race? And like, this happens all the time. And,
Yeah.
or kids are coming in to say, I'm entering the transfer portal now, or, all these other things. Like, you're going to be fine. And so, the coach traveled him to Florida for the first meet. They
Mhm.
talked about whether he wanted to run or not. They decided no. They said, maybe if some 4x4s show up, you can run a 4x4 or you can come as a manager. All these different things, be part of the team. He still lives with, like I said, there's 7 of them in this house. But he wanted to get himself straight for next year, and
Yeah.
just kind of like
Yeah.
he needed a break.
Mhm.
And, he's put a lot of pressure on himself academically. Brag on him a little bit. He actually took a week away from the team. He knew he was taking a week away from the team already because he got accepted to a competition, a math competition at Harvard, and they were
Uh-huh.
flying him out there. And so he was
Oh
taking
wow.
some time away from the team already. And so
Yeah.
he had that experience. That's what he needed. And the coaches, of course you can do that. That's about your life.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like it was a great thing. He met a lot of companies because it was a trading. He's a very specialized math major in quantitative finance, and so
Mhm.
that would he wanted to take care of him mentally, and I think that's
Mhm.
fantastic. And thank goodness, the staff at Michigan is really set up for that.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the athletes they know when they need to take a mental break from something. And a lot of times us as parents, I know me included, we can put additional pressure on them and not
yeah.
even know it.
Right. It's the
Yeah,
things you don't say sometimes they worry about, and that,
yeah.
that you leave them
Exactly.
guessing. And
Yep. Yep.
yeah, and so you just got to be really careful because they
Yeah.
pick up
Yeah.
on everything.
Mhm.
And and it's tough too. Like I know your daughter's in Indiana. They're
Mhm.
far away.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
this contact with them and you try to keep it positive and you try to get
Yeah.
them going. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
and you want to give them distance. Like I'm not
Yeah.
calling
Yeah.
him. Like
Yeah.
he's calling me most of the time, or I text him. Um, you know, different things I'm doing. But yeah, I um, try not to bother him too much about his training because it really I
Yeah.
don't understand. Like that's the other thing. As a parent, I don't know what his training is at Michigan. Like he can
Yeah.
tell me, but
Yeah.
I don't know if he's really putting out the effort or like
Hmm.
if it suits him. He can describe it all he wants, but I'm like, okay, are you doing okay? That's where
Yeah.
I come from.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't want to get in the weeds with his training.
Uh-huh.
If he's
Yeah.
but he's happy to tell me a lot of times what he's
Uh-huh.
doing, and like, especially before meets, he'll go, "Oh man, I ran this," as his last training run, and
Hmm.
ready for the during indoor.
Yeah.
I'm great, awesome, awesome. Have a great
Yeah.
race.
Yeah. And another thing is like with those athletes, they already know what they need to work on, after they have a
Yeah,
bad race. They already
yeah,
know. Cause like with my daughter, she, when she get to talking, after the race, she's like, yeah, I didn't do this and I know what I need to do. And my response always, well, you know what you need to work on. Then I start talking
yeah,
about what we eating tonight.
yeah. Exactly. You gotta like. I know. Like we joked about it tonight at dinner. I'm actually flying up to Michigan in a couple weeks to pick him up. And we're going to drive the car down so we can get it inspected. And then we're going to drive it up after my other son's high school graduation.
Mhm.
And I told my wife, I go, I got to go to there are these farmers that I buy a bunch of like protein, meat and chicken, beef and chicken. I go, I got to
Uh-huh.
suck it up and go buy just a ton of food this week because I know next 2 weekends, I'm not going to be able to go do it. And we need a house full of food.
Yeah.
We need the second
It's like,
freezer.
come on.
The second freezer needs to be full, and we got regionals next week, and then I'm
Uh-huh.
flying to Michigan the next week. So yeah, yep,
Let me ask you this too. So how did your tennis background shape your view for track development, or if it
yeah.
did?
Well, it's an individual sport that counts towards a team result. Same thing, same sort of thing. But you're out there on an island. I think for my oldest, playing tennis was great for him
Mhm.
because, like, I was more nervous. I'm more nervous watching him play tennis than I was running track. Now, I get
Mm.
nervous with him running track, but tennis, because I know it so well, was really hard for me to sit there with on my hands. I was just pace.
Uh-huh.
Couldn't sleep at night. I was playing matches in my head, and he's carefree. But yeah, no, you're out there on an island. I think that's one of the great things about these sports. You got to figure it out, and that's why my kids they're more distance runners. We're 800,
Uh-huh.
1600,
Mhm.
cross country, um, and there's a lot of tactics involved,
Mhm.
and you know, there's so much a coach can tell you, and you've got to not. It's it's like tennis in the sense that it's experience based, in my opinion. You're running a race, and you're not in your own lane. You don't get like in the sprints, you get your own lane, you stay in your lane. In these other events, you got to maneuver your way around that track and other people. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you, it's not always great. One of my favorite things is when our club kids go to their first indoor meet and they just get pushed around and they all, "Ah, they,
Yeah.
they elbowed me." And it's like, yeah, it's indoor track. And they don't, because we don't have enough of it in Texas,
Yeah.
and it's just like their first experience is always awful. And you drove all this way to Arkansas, or you drove all the way to Houston or A&M or Texas Tech, and then you
Uh-huh.
got elbowed and you fell apart. But yeah, no, it's like, how do you handle that adversity
Yeah.
without your parents right there on the track telling you what to
Mhm.
do? And so that's
Yeah.
what track is. Track is, you got to solve the problem.
Yeah. 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 It's I don't know if you've seen on my Twitter page, X page. I put a poll out. I think it was probably about a couple of months ago, and the poll was is track more of a individual sport or is it a team sport? And I mean that thing just went everywhere because
Yeah.
you had coaches over there. Hey, it's a team sport. It's a team sport. Then you had parents. Hey, it's an individual sport because my kid need to go to college.
Yeah.
Uh,
I get
yeah.
the team aspect of it, but quite honestly, there are very few, and I'm going to talk about our region. There are very few Summer Creeks, Atascocitas, Fort Bend Marshalls. Up there, you've got the Duncanvilles and DeSoto's. There are very
Mhm.
few programs, and it's really tough.
Yeah.
Um, like my kids, there's nobody that's anywhere near the level of my kids and in their school. And I'm not saying that
Mhm.
to brag or anything. It's just a
Yeah, I
fact.
get it. Yeah.
And it's really hard. And that's why you have to rely. I'm a firm believer in the club coaches and the school coaches. And I know Coach McCray posted about this about an hour ago, because it's a big problem in Houston right now, and it's been a problem in Austin a little bit. But there's got to be some acknowledgement that, like, here's what the way, and I let my son handle it with
Mhm.
the coaches, and he's got a great relationship with his high school coaches, but they know that they don't even know how to design a workout. Like he doesn't
Mhm.
know how to design a distance workout, so he
Mhm.
takes the workout from the private coach, from Paul.
Mhm.
Or my son knows what the workout is, and then my son does it on days he goes with the team. But it's not
Mhm.
like there's guys who are gonna, like, you know be able to keep up on his reps or keep up on his on his running. He tries to
Mhm.
incorporate them as much as possible during cross country season, but it's just not possible. And so there is a there that's the problem when you have an elite athlete. And um it you know I'm sad, because I wish it were more. Man, I wish we had the team that some of those places had.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you what, my son really craves it. My oldest loves his family at Michigan. My youngest is so much looking forward to the Texas team. You know,
Mhm.
he's already, in passing, met the Maxwells. He's tried. He's living with he's where he's living with 5 kids on the track team next year.
Mhm.
They're in touch already all the time. It is a team, and that's how you need to be able to train to be successful. But a lot of
Mhm.
times you just don't have that in high school, unfortunately.
And let me ask you this: so, as a parent, as a track parent, um, is that something you share with your athletes? Hey, I know you're on the. It's some things you do as a team, but to get more well, I don't want to say recognition, to get noticed more, it's going to have to be on individual performances. For me, raising an athlete, that's how I went by it. Of course, you're going to have 4x1s, 4x4s, 4x2s, and in high school and all that stuff. But where the money is, where you're going to get the money for school, for college, is going to be on those individual
Yeah.
events. You know.
And I'll tell you what, you ask any kid what their favorite event is, it's a relay, because they love being with their teammates. They naturally want to be with teammates. Now,
Yeah.
my kid is an 800. Okay, so my youngest won cross country state, but he's the anchor on our 4x4. That's how
Mhm.
ridiculous this is. And
Right.
he loves it, but he's by far the fastest 400-meter runner at the school. And,
Mm.
our second fastest runner is a kid who was a swimmer and won 3 gold medals this year at state 5A swimming. I mean,
Mhm.
we're in a weird position, but the
Yeah.
kids, and my oldest loves relays. My youngest got to be on that Nike State DMR with Caden Leonard and
Uh-huh.
Noah Stroman and Josh Shelton out of Pearland.
Yeah.
And I mean, they didn't run great. They all had bad days except for Caden, but they got second, and it was a great experience. He would run relays. Like, he doesn't really, like, he's not. It's funny. He wants to maybe go to U20s. He's already qualified for U20s.
Uh-huh.
He's got the time, and that's okay. He's like, I don't know if I want to stick around for Nike unless I get asked to be on the relay, because I want to do the, like, he
Yeah.
loves
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
relay.
Yeah.
He can't wait to run DMR indoors at Texas. He can't, he's looking forward to those things. So yeah, there's a team aspect, but you really have to watch out. I also I get that it's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And I think, my kids being distance kids, it's a little more. standoutish because most distance kids don't do relays unless it's a 4x8, which unfortunately we don't do in Texas, or a DMR, which we
Yeah,
don't do in Texas. Yeah, I mean, we do those very rarely. So, luckily my kids love doing the 4x4, and they've been on the 4x4, both of them, for since they got to high school. Um, yeah, my oldest, he was a freshman and he was on the 4x4 at LBJ because he was at LASA, and that was still connected to LBJ. And he was so upset because that was the COVID year, and he was and they could have gone to state, and he was like, the only chance in my life we were going to have a chance to go in a relay,
Yeah.
and COVID came up. So yeah, no, it's tough. It is a really tough thing when you're trying to get a kid, or you think your kid wants to run in college, or you think that's a great pathway for him. I think, part of my background, we've talked about this. I've taught at the University of Texas. I taught in the business school for a little bit, and I've worked in the athletic department at the UT. I worked with the tennis team for a while, but I also worked at Trinity, a Division III school, and I was in charge of the athletic facilities almost 30 years ago. And so I have a very weird background because I work in tech now. But, one of the things is I always hoped my kids did athletics to get accepted to a better school than maybe they thought, like it's a differentiator, especially people who are involved in applying for colleges right now. All of my kids' friends are struggling getting into their top choices.
Yeah.
What's happening is those kids who are good at a sport, who have all these other extra activities, those are the ones that are getting in. And you get in by the coach, being good enough to be on a team. So there are a lot of great Division III schools where you're going to get academic aid. You're not going to get any money for athletics, but you'll get a lot more academic aid. And they have good programs, and the academics are super high at times, and they're smaller classes, and you get a great education. So I'm a firm believer in finding your fit, and really exploring everything. Not like the age of everybody going D1. I'm very fortunate. Both my kids are, but it's scary right now. And that it's a numbers game, and they could get run off. I mean, Michigan's not going to run off my son, but you never know what's going to happen at Texas or anything. And it's a cutthroat game right now. You better score points or you move on. And it's not for everybody.
Let me ask you, I'm glad you brought that up. I am glad you brought that up because this is another conversation I just had last week on my page. Is, can you just speak on how important it is for athletes to score points for the college team? Because I was trying to tell some people that the coaches, they want you to score points. Is that an important thing in college? Or
I'll tell you two things that'll keep your butt on the team. One is score points. The other is be the best teammate there is.
Yeah.
Because if you're a punk, they don't want you anyway. Even if you score points, they're going to struggle keeping you around. But it's really funny. There are a couple of teams, I'm not going to mention names, that I know in the SEC that have kids on their team that don't score points. But the differentiator is that kid is great glue. He is a glue guy. A couple of them, they're glue people, boys and girls, sorry, that are glue people, positive influences, and they're getting better.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening is kids who don't buy in and to the team concept when they get to college are the first ones to move on. They're not happy. And I think, here's what I hope as a parent. I hope I've raised my sons to be self-reliant and self-aware and self-reliant and and confident, self-confident in their beliefs, so that when they go, they want to be part of a team. They want to just dive in, and they're going to do their best no matter what, even when the day's tough. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
one of the things, there's a great quote that, and this, there's about how, you read it, how many days like of practice do you really enjoy? You know, you have good days and bad days. Everybody does. If you had good days all the time, you're probably not training hard enough. If you had bad days all the time, you're probably training too hard, and or something. But so there's this whole mix of like, how do you cope with that without your parents around, hopefully, and learn to be a young adult. That's what life is.
Yeah.
Because when you go into the business world, you do not like all of your coworkers. I can promise you that. But you're a great teammate. If you're a great teammate, you grew up on a team, and that's why businesses hire college athletes, because they know how to handle people that may not be their best friend, but they can be a teammate. And if you're a good teammate, you'll go a long way in this world. You see it. There's so many ex-athletes who are CEOs of companies, or who are founders, who are just workers, smart people. They've managed to crack that nut and stay, and survive. I mean, because it's a job, as we like to say to our kids.
Yeah.
Going to college and being on the track team now
Yeah.
at a Division I school is a job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you just got to understand that. And your schoolwork. I mean, Michigan's no walk in the park, and he's going to be at McCombs in the business school at UT. Not going to be a walk in the park. And track practice and cross country practice, not a walk in the park. So how do you handle that? And you hope that you raised them well enough to handle it.
Yep. Yep. And for the parents that's listening, this is all facts. Need to try to start making some preparations before they get to high school on time management. You need to teach them how to manage their time, because when they get to college, their whole day is full with meetings, school, recovery.
Yeah. My son's right now at the gym with wearing Normatex. He went with a buddy. He trained this afternoon, and he'd gone to school all day, and he went up back to the gym with a buddy of his so he could slip into the Normatex and do some recovery and stretch, do a little bit more. It's that time of the year where the workouts are, getting ready for regionals. You're trying to peak right now. So keep that body prime. Everybody knows what this is. We're in the home stretch. I mean, you think about it. We had I was thinking about, like, being a numbers geek, a district, you have 32 districts times, essentially 8 to 10 schools, 320 schools, each bringing 3 kids. That's almost 1,000 kids, that start out in any event. We go to area where there's 128, and we go to regionals where there's only 16. I mean, whatever, 64. We go to regionals where there's 64, and we come to Austin with 9. We're at that point where it's 64.
Yeah,
trying to get to the 9, and that's it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
So it's an interesting time to, my favorite part of the year. I'm biased. My favorite event, Coach McCray will tell you this. My favorite meet, other than going to Eugene, my favorite meet every year is the Region 3 track meet. It's the best meet in the world.
Oh, really?
My first time ever, my oldest was a sophomore. I sat in front. That's how I met Coach McCray. Sat behind me and these old timers sat behind him, and the commentary from those old timers behind him, and then listened to the actual coach behind me. And I just turned around. He seemed to know every kid who was winning all the races. And so we struck up a conversation. And then I'm the kind of guy that just, I see him at a meet and I introduce myself. It's kind of like, the Coach Irvins, I see them anywhere and I say hi again, And, I talk to everybody. So if I recognize a coach, I always try to get to know him. He introduced me to Coach Dabbs up at in Eugene at U20s
Uh,
last year. It's
yeah.
just one of those things, I feel fortunate to get, because these guys are the top of the top. And,
Mhm.
I love going to track meets and I love watching these kids run. We're nerds. We watch track meets online. I have, we'll have the TV on, we'll have computers on, we'll watch kids because we know kids, but you get to this point, kids everywhere. And so you find
Mhm.
all these random track meets because, I went to Texas State 4 weeks ago.
Uh,
My kids weren't running, but I knew 10 kids running in the meet. And I just wanted to go down there because I knew their parents would be there. And I could see a bunch of kids that used to train with us, you know? And I'm weird like that. So it's just fun to go see kids run and especially kids you've watched their whole
oh
lives.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's fun. Like it's fun for me now to see all these kids running college. Because
Yeah.
now me and my wife, we're on the college scene now, so we go to a lot of college meets, and all these
Yeah.
kids we've been seeing run in high school, they're now running in college, and it's crazy because you've been watching these kids ever since ever since youth track, and they off in
Yeah.
college now, man. It's amazing.
I
It
went
is
to Tom.
amazing.
I went to Tom Jones 2 years ago. Florida meet, and you're seeing all these phenomenal athletes who train at Florida, pros who are going
Mhm.
to run random events. But then it was funny because there are all these kids from Texas who were running, that I knew
Yeah,
from
yeah,
high school meets. And so,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was great. I went to go see my son and I saw all these
Uh-huh.
kids that I've known forever.
Yeah, that Tom Jones, that's one of my favorite meets. This is the second year we went. It
Yeah.
was even bigger this year, and it was
Yeah.
it was nice. And I got to see Sha'Carri run that anchor leg on a 4x1, which was amazing. I've been waiting to see her for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I'm glad she ran that anchor.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I got to see her at Worlds. Um, it was fun. Yeah, it's special to get to see, I mean, just greatness. Some of
Mhm. Yeah.
you watch them on TV. I mean, there's a little different one. My kids have both raced against Cooper Lukenhouse. You
Mhm.
know, it's insane to me. And I talk to his dad all the time. I try to talk to George all the time, but like it's like absolutely insane to me that this kid is running pro events and the Maxwells and everybody, and they're thriving. And
Yeah,
you
it's
just
crazy.
sit there and it's like you know, last year in February, Cooper hosted an event
Mhm.
at Northwest to try to break the 1K record, and my son was invited to be part of that field.
Mhm.
And none of those kids knew how to run a 1K because they'd never run a 1K. So it's like
Uh-huh.
running the 1200 in a DMR. Nobody, that poor kid who has to run the 1200 for the first time has no idea how to pace it, and they
Yeah.
didn't have any idea how to pace it right. So but it was a great experience. He met 8 kids, 10 kids who
Mhm.
he usually doesn't get to see because they're all from North Texas, and really get to know them. But it's really fun. I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I seen something about Cooper. I think about 2 hours ago on X. He was somewhere. I think it was a picture. I think he was taking a picture with his parents or something like that. Some
Hmm.
race. Um.
Yeah.
So as a
I wonder.
parent,
I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
I wonder if he's at Drake or at Penn Relays, but I would doubt it unless he's probably at a pro race because they're mostly racing pro stuff. So we'll see.
Ah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't see anything about him at Drake's or anything like that.
Yeah.
As a parent, how do you balance support versus over involvement?
Oh God, that's every parent's I have my wife. That's what I have.
Yeah.
My wife is the level-headed. So just so and nobody thinks that my kid's talent comes from me. My wife has 2 national championship rings for the University of Texas. She swam at Texas. So my
Nice.
kids My kids got maybe some height for me, but they got their talent from my wife. But so she's always the one kind of pulling me back, and we do it.
Uh-huh.
We, as parents, we do it to each other. Like she'll ask
Yeah.
questions that I know bother him, like I've already asked him, and so like, you
Uh-huh.
you just kind of, it's parenting as a team. We laughed about it because like I said, I was going through my USATF training, recertification
Mhm.
this weekend, and I was talking about how much I actually enjoy it. I always like the safe sport stuff as well because
Mhm.
it's stuff that we all know, and my kids have to take the safe sport stuff because they're camp counselors during the summer, or they have been, and
Mhm.
you feel annoyed because it seems very logical to doing the right thing and reporting things and how you do it, but I think it's something everybody um, needs a reminder every couple of years. And it's
Yeah.
it's one of those things about doing the right thing. And so one of the things that came up was, you know, how you treat people, how you treat kids that you're coaching, or and I was going through all this stuff in my head about, what I like about the coaches we have and what I think they fail at. And she brought up something about the way I used to behave at basketball games. And I always knew she was right.
Mhm.
When I wasn't coaching the team, because I've coached a lot of basketball in my years, but when I wasn't coaching the team, I would have to run the book,
Mhm.
so that I couldn't talk and coach my kids while the game was going on. So I
Mhm.
volunteered to do book every game because that was the only way I knew not to coach as a parent.
Mhm.
So it's been my wife who I really think it's a parenting thing. You've got to check each other, and you've
Yeah.
also got to take a deep breath. Um, Listen, nothing, things happen in races. I remember, I think it was the year after COVID, 2021, Sam Whitmarsh, you know, who NCAA champion in the 800. He's a senior. He's been injured a little bit. He won state as a sophomore. COVID comes the year after. He's not feeling great, but he's run 149, at a
Mhm.
meet already. But like he's at regionals, and he and Wyatt Green get trampled on the inside at the start on the rail, and they have to restart the race,
Mhm.
and they're both bloody, and they've been, they've re-injured injuries they've had. And Sam Whitmarsh, the defending state champ,
Mhm.
doesn't even make it out of regionals. So you have to be prepared for everything. It happens to
Yeah.
everyone. And my son has had this happen at different meets, where he's gotten spiked and taken down, or just things happen, and you just
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
ready, and you have to take a deep breath, and you
Yeah.
have to your first reaction can't be anger.
Yeah.
It can't be being sad. It has
Yeah.
to be support, and you
Yeah.
you really have to try to balance that. And we're all humans, and it's
Mhm.
hard, but and I'm not perfect at it. I can tell you, I this is one of the dumbest things, but it's true. I internalize a lot. And my son won state as a junior in high school, and
Mhm.
he got boxed in his senior year and just ran a dumb race. Didn't run it right, you know, another yard, 2 yards, 2 meters, and he wins the race, but he finishes second.
Mhm.
And all I could think, all I kept doing was playing the race in my head that night. It was over. There's nothing to do,
Yeah.
but you still play that over, and it's okay.
Mhm.
You just can't present it in front
Yeah.
of your kids. You try not to, at least.
Yeah. 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 I would say being supportive is probably the number one thing you can do for your kid, because I'm telling you, if you just keep putting that pressure on them about you need to work on this, you should have done this in a race, or how do you feel about this? I mean, they have a coach for a reason. you know, they have a
That's
coach
right.
for a reason. Go talk to your coach, and
Right.
that's
And
the kind of way I deal with. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, no, you're 100% right. That's what the coach is for, and you need to respect the coach. Now you can always ask the coach questions, and
Yeah.
coaches aren't perfect,
Yeah.
but like my son's coach here in town, Paul Carosa. I mean, he's coached everywhere. He's a phenomenal coach. He's a phenomenal parent and a good person. Um, you know, I still have to. I'll still say to him, like, what's the plan? I still want to know the plan. Like, how? What do we like? I as parents, well, and also as high school coaches, this is a big debate in California right now as well,
Hmm.
is, and I think it's in several states, um, but they do a lot of dual meets, and dual meets don't have a whole lot of use for elite athletes. You know, it's too much racing. If your goal
Hmm.
is to win the state championship, you know, you shouldn't be doing dual meets twice a week. You know, every week, right? You know, you shouldn't have all these dual meets, and you shouldn't do all this. It's just maybe for sprinters it's okay, but
Hmm.
you can't be doing all this racing. And so it's like, hey, what are we racing? What's the plan for this year? Like in January, like what's the goal through indoor season? How many races are we thinking about?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
going like, and this year we were going to skip indoor season except for A&M. So
Mm.
we usually go to Michigan because they run anybody who wants to go to Michigan for their high school meet. It's a great time. Um, I'll say it's in January. But generally been the same week as Arkansas or Texas Tech. But we've gone up for the last 3 or 4 years. We didn't go this year, but they run the college meet on Saturday, so you
Hmm.
can fly up Friday night, get to see a college meet, and then you can
Uh-huh.
run the high school meet on Sunday. And they have the high school meet on Sunday, and it's generally like MLK weekend. So then you have Monday off, and you can fly back Monday. But it's varied on its weekends, but it's great. But we decided. My son was like, I'm not going to run Michigan. I'm just going to run A&M, and I'm not going to run Nike or New Balance.
Hmm.
I'm gonna train. And it turned out that he won A&M, and the next day came back, got second in the mile, got home, went to bed, didn't get out of bed for 48 hours. He was sick, got the flu.
Mm.
And so all of our decisions were like, okay, yeah, this is it. Not going to race indoor season. But then he got
Hmm.
invited to do the DMR at Nike. And so he decided to go run 2 events at Nike. But that was, 2 months later, and
Hmm.
so he just trained,
Yeah.
and he didn't run like with his high school. He worked with his coaches. Hey, I'll run every 4x4 you want. One day he ran 7 miles of hills, did all his workout in the morning.
Hmm.
Um, Came home, ate, rested, did some recovery, and then drove out to Bastrop for our high school meet and ran the anchor on the 4x4,
Mm.
after doing a full, Saturday workout, which
Hmm.
is hills here. So, you know, it, but he talked to the coaches and managed that. It's
Yeah.
like load management for track athletes, and you need it more in distance, I think. But I do believe, you know, sprinters need their own as well. But
Yeah.
I don't have that experience. Mine is distance, and obviously, a distance you need it.
Yeah, I think it's needed in both. I mean, I see a lot of time athletes running a lot of track meets and doing a lot of training, and sometimes they're like, "Hey, when are they getting a break?" you know?
Well, the flip side is if they're racing so much, when are they training? When are they really putting in the training? And so,
Yeah.
um, that's the difficult balance. And
Hmm.
it's different for every athlete. And you've got to treat all your athletes differently if you're a coach. I'm a firm believer in that. Like,
Oh yeah.
not everything's the same for everybody. And
Hmm.
you do, and good coaches find different ways to do it. And to make it fun, for
Hmm.
everybody.
Yeah.
We do Paul does relays all the time to end practice. He does the one hit wonders, and it's some sort of high speed thing at the end of
Hmm.
practice, and he'll put the slower kids. He'll give them a start, and they'll go, and then it's the next kids go. and the next kid's go, and you got to try to catch everybody, and so you got your middle school kids out there, halfway around the track, and then the high school kids coming, trying to get them and stuff like that. So, you've got to make it fun. You've got to differentiate it, and good coaches know how to do that. Like,
Yeah.
and they know how to manage their elite runners if they're coachable. I mean, some kids just aren't coachable though. I mean, and I say that I say that kind of funny, but it's true. Some kids you can tell them, "Hey, go at this pace," and they just can't handle it.
Yeah. It's but not all high school coaches, but some they don't know how to manage those elite athletes, and I think that's kind of where the trainer and the head high school coaches start bumping heads and all that. It's kind of crazy, I was fortunate. We was fortunate with high school with the communication between coaches and trainers and stuff. And I think that's another thing with parents. They need to communicate with the high school coach. If they if the athlete is training a certain way with the trainer here, they need to communicate, because that's the only way it's going to work. If they don't, Go ahead.
And I think one of the things that I've been able to do over the last few years is I stay out of it, and I make sure that my son negotiates it with his coach at the high school. He has a great relationship with that coach, and it's because, well, my youngest, the one, he was on the basketball team first 2 years of high school. Still, he played basketball for 2 years, and that coach, who's the track coach, also happened to be one of the assistant basketball coaches. And so they started that relationship in basketball, knowing full well that my kid's also an elite runner. And so he came on to be the distance coach. And, they've built up this relationship. And it started, I think they really started to get together sophomore year and plan things out, and okay, you need to come to practice this day because I want you here with all the guys. And then you can go to your private practice, your club team practices these days. Okay. And but I've let them negotiate it. I try to stay out of it now. There's times when you've got to ask questions as a parent. And if you don't think things are going well and your kid needs support, you're there. But I think one of the things you need to do is have your kid advocate and learn to advocate for themselves. As a parent, trust me, when they go to college, it allows you to be relaxed because you know how you raised them, and you know that they've been able to talk to adults and go through difficult times with coaches, because it's the good and the bad. And so you've learned to negotiate those waters. And it's going to happen when you get to college, and mommy and daddy aren't there. So you need to make them self-reliant and self-confident.
When especially in college, you're gonna have to communicate with your coaches in college. They're not gonna be coming around to ask you how you doing, because they got too much going on, right? If you feel in a certain way, you need to make sure you get there, communicate with them, schedule a meeting, go in there and talk to them. They're not gonna baby you, and you probably was so here's the thing. So you was a high school star on your high school team. Now you at this school. Guess what? Everybody's a state champion there.
Exactly. or a national champion.
A national champion.
It's you walk. You walk on that team at Michigan. You're a freshman, and you've got like Savannah Sutherland, who runs for the Canadian national team, finished 6th in the hurdles at the Olympics. And they become close friends. They both sit in the back and read books on bus rides together and talk a lot. And it's funny who you meet, but there's people that are a lot more impressive than you when you get there. Especially if you're going to a big school like that, or D1 school. You just have to understand, and that's why you want to be there, honestly. If you don't want that kind of competition, and you don't want that kind of training group, then don't go there. I mean, that's part of the deal, to go someplace where nobody cares. Go to it, and but
Yeah,
if you're an elite athlete and you like competition, you like coaching, and you like to, you're going to want to be with the best. I mean,
yeah,
all these guys, the Maxwells, they're going to Texas, Taylor, all those guys going to Texas Tech. They want to be with the best,
yeah, yeah,
and they want to train with them. I mean, why did Odie, why did he move to San Antonio? He wanted to train with Tate.
yep,
He wanted
yep,
to, the iron shines iron, iron it
yeah,
sharpens iron, as we
yeah,
say. And so, you get those environments. I mean, luckily the Maxwells they've got a built-in training partner right there. I mean, it's
yeah,
insanity.
yeah,
But
yeah,
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 no,
yeah,
but you become their best friends, even though you're like training with them. Like
yeah, yeah,
that's part of
yeah.
the deal.
Yeah, and that's and they bring a lot to those teams they're going to be going to, because it's going to up everybody else game, and it's they're going to be a positive influence on the athletes they're going to be around, so
Yeah,
yeah, we when you're going off to college, it's one of them things where you have to grow up fast.
you do, and you
Eh,
hope, as a parent, you hope you gave them the skill set to do it, to
yeah,
handle it.
yeah, yeah. Let's talk a little analytics real
Oh, sure.
quick.
Yeah.
How much can data predict an athlete's future success?
Great question. So just to give everybody a little bit of background, I have an analytics background. I am bored a lot of the time, so I start looking at track data. And I've written a couple of blog posts. I've written several things. But I've started writing academic papers to publish in academic journals. And my first one has to do with um, 800-meter runners in college. What happens to the top 800-meter runners in high school? And can you predict success for them at the collegiate level? And um, I think the talent identification, that's in academic journals, that's kind of what it's called, talent identification. Um, one of the things that really interests me is, can you predict these things? And one of the interesting parts about it is, if you take the top runners, in the 800, and when I say the top, I mean the top 200s or so every year off the national rankings. And you track those kids, the ones that went D1. Obviously, the ones that go sub 150, you know, they're going to be closer already to the NCAA standard. I mean, that's because you and I already mentioned this. The only thing that matters if some of these schools is, can you score me points? And
Mhm.
so that's one thing. But what the data tells me in this research paper that's out for review, is that only tells half the story. Kids who run slower than 151 in high school make up half of the pool that makes it to the NCAA meet. So not just kids who are your elite, you know, there's a ton of kids who are like 153 range who make it to the NCAAs. That's their PR in high school. And what there's two different pieces that come out of it. One is those kids that were your 148, 149, there's a couple that have gone 146 in the last couple of years. That's insanity. But yeah, they've already probably benefited from their maturity. They may already have that benefit of maybe being a little bit more mature growth wise, but they also may have good coaching. They may have access to better coaching, and they run those times, and they're going to get better. And there's also like the physical peak, like how much really can you improve? And so there's a shorter, all kids. Let me step back real quick. In my research of several hundred kids, 700 kids, I believe it was, 80% who went Division 1 got faster, and they got faster about the same, whether they were an elite runner, or whether they were a 153 to 155 runner, or in between there. They all got on average better. But there are cases where if you look at who qualified for the NCAA meet, a lot of those runners were not your sub 150 runners. Half of them, or more than half of them actually, were slower in high school. Now, so that says you can't really predict who's going to make it. Now, obviously, the faster runners, it's a higher percentage. So there's very few runners that run sub 150 every year. I think last year I said I was 36, 32. I wrote an article about it, but there aren't many of those kids. But what the research showed me, because I looked at their entire high school career, the research showed me that kids who can run a sub 49 400, and maybe they were 400 runners in high school, they ran the 400, but they ran a 153, 154, 800. Those are the kids that make the 5 second, 6 second, 8 second jumps in college. They have the speed, but they have never developed their aerobic base. And so, in college, a coach that finds those kids that maybe don't, think of it this way. Is a kid that runs a 48.9 gonna really run D1 track, or 48.5? I mean, at that point, he can't score.
Yeah.
He's not going to score at at most meets. Okay, conference meets. Those days are gone. Now, if he improves, yes, but if he's the right fit, and you add his aerobic base, and you start training him, that runner is probably a good candidate to be an 800-meter runner. Because everybody knows you can teach aerobic and aerobic base, right? You can coach that. You can give people more base training, running stuff. You cannot coach speed. It's hard to make people are just naturally fast, or they're not. Now, you can develop quickness to make people who are fast faster, right? But if somebody who's naturally fast and has that kind of speed, 48 speed, and they're not getting any faster, which happens, right? I mean, some kids run 48 and they run 40, like they're great in high school and they just can't run any faster. Might be a good candidate for the 800. So that was one of the articles I've written. Another one, which I have a blog post I referenced it a minute ago. I have a blog post that I wrote about running a sub 150 800. I tracked every single one of the splits from last year, and did some analysis on it, wrote a blog post about, you've got to come through in high school, the average was about 53.4 to try to break 150, which is kind of like I joke that it's the holy grail of high school middle distance running. It's kind of like, everybody wants to run a 4-minute mile, and every high school kid wants to run a sub 150, right? And it's like, if you do that, most schools take you, right? If you're running 149 in high school, most schools want to give you a look, or a lot of schools will give you a look. I won't say most schools, but a lot of schools will give you a look. So I wrote about that. And then my research that I'm just completing right now that has to do with steeplechase. And it's super interesting because I know nothing about steeplechase other than watching it and thinking it's absolutely fun to watch, because I mean, both my brothers went to the Olympic Training Center in cycling, and they were cyclists. And people watch bike races because they like crashes. I mean, they like cycling, but the crashes, when you're racing around, is kind of fun on a track. But that's kind of what steeplechase is. Everybody's like, oh my God, every time they go over the water jump, who's gonna bite it? And it's just different. But what it finds out is that there are some good predictors of who is a good collegiate steeplechaser. 800 speed, no. Mile speed, a little bit, not really. 3,200 speed in high school is a good predictor, as is cross country level. So if you have a good cross country 5K time, and you attended, like, one of the factors that I put into the data was whether you'd run at national meets or state championships. If you're an elite cross country runner, you went to some of the national meets, you stand a good chance. But the number one indicator of whether you are going to be a good steeplechaser eventually was your 1500 speed your first year in college, second year in college.
Mm.
Those kids, because I have a lot of TFRS data. For those of you who don't know, TFRS. We call it all the kids. They call it TFRS, and so I have a ton of TFRS data, mile split data, and athletic.net data, and that's where I get everything. But yeah, no. So the kids who have a good 1500 meter time tend to have can be good steeplechase runners in the future. That was the biggest predictor. I actually talked to a coach this week about my research just generally, and it makes sense. And also, this was an interesting fact. Most runners did not make the regional list, did not qualify for regionals their first time in the last 10 years. My research encompassed the last 10 years. It was over 3 years after their high school graduation. So they're all older. For a variety of reasons, whether that's COVID years, whether it's they just, they're developing their base as they get older. And it is an older person's event. But the commonality is they do have some sort of speed in the 1500 when they're in college, and they probably have the background of cross country. Running steeplechase as a high schooler, no effect. Nope, doesn't show anything. But those are the kind of things I look at. I'm always looking for interesting problems. I think one of the things people worry about and focus about too much is PRs. Quite honestly, I think PRs are overrated. They tell you, what I want to know is, are you winning? And, can you achieve that time on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Like if you're, I always laugh. We had this one kid who ran a 10-4 at our high school, and I'm not a big believer in the wind. I just feel like people get legal wind readings when they really aren't. There's all this talk about whether Gout's time in the 200
I heard
weeks
about
ago.
that.
I mean, they had a massive crosswind and the meter didn't read it the same way. It's all this weird stuff. So yeah, they had a crosswind that didn't get read by the meter right. So every runner in that race set a PR by 0.2 seconds. That's and so whatever. Everybody has those meets. I mean, It's windy in Florida. It's windy everywhere. So, but can you consistently run fast and win? That's what's important. I look at middle distance. It's even more because it's tactical racing. So, if I look at a kid and he's got a 150, 800 PR, I'm impressed. But then I look to see what the second fastest time he's got is. And if it's 155 or 157, I'm like, and he didn't win, I'm like, something was up that day. That may not be a legal time, or something, who knows? Like, I'm not going to not give the kid the credit for the 150, but I know there's bad times out there. The flip side is, if you're running 157 and you still won the race, that's totally fine because you probably had to run the 4x4 for your team that day, and you probably had to run the mile. They're those kind of things. But if you aren't winning and you're running 157 and your PR is 150, what are you doing? So I there are a lot of parents that fixate on PRs.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's a problem. I think it's like, are you competitive consistently? Do you show that fire? Do you can you run sub whatever? Like, my son's 800 time, his PR is only 151.54 because most of the time he's not running for speed. He's got to run 3 races that day. It's championship season. He's just trying to peak, and he's also trying to advance, trying to win district, trying to win area, trying to win regionals. And so he doesn't have a whole lot of times where he's actually going flat out. And, so you have to balance that with, hey, can you drop that 152 when you need to? Can you drop that, which, last week at area, he did. He dropped a 152 because the race got a little competitive at the start and he enjoyed it. And he just kind of went and like, all right, these guys want to go, let's go. And, and so the race dictates that. But also, yeah, I see it a lot in girls that, girls can run, I seen a girl run a 213, 800 and the mom's all about that. Like, oh, that's her PR. She's run as fast as these other girls. Well, those other girls run that 213 all the time. Her next fastest time is 218, and she's not winning those races. So I said, you need to focus more on her and quit trying to compare yourself to other people. Work on what's important and quit telling your kid she's got a PR every race, like focus on winning. Focus on the things you can do. Focus on being better every day. Those are the things I think are really key. And that's what from a data standpoint, that's what drives me crazy, and I think most coaches go that way, like college coaches. I think they understand like, okay, somebody ran this, but what do they look like? Do they, are they really running that? Are they really that fast?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your opinion on that. Like
As
where
far,
because especially in the hurdles, and stuff.
as
That
far as
you've seen.
PRs,
Yeah.
it. So one thing I'm saying this too for the parents that's listening. You go to a meet thinking your kid's about to PR, they not going to PR. When they PR is be when you least expect it every single time.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I know every single time, and I think it's one of them things that if as parents we pushing PRs, if we calling our if we're talking to our athletes before they race and all this, hey, we need you to let's go ahead and get that PR. Doing we needed this. It's not gonna do them any good. It's gonna put a lot of stress on them. And what I tell my daughter is, sorry, I got a comment. What's going on, Howard? How you doing? I think that's Norwood. All right. So if you're focusing on PR as a parent, that's not where your kids' focus needs to be going to a race. They need to focus on execution. And what I tell my daughter or whatever, focus on execution, doing everything you've been doing at practice, doing all the right things. If you execute everything, the PR will come. It might not come at this meet, but it will come, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it never fails every single time when I'm sitting there in the stand. Yeah, today's gonna be the day.
Yeah.
It never happened. Like, what happened? What's going on?
I'll tell you something funny. So he ran a 152.7 at area last week, and I was like, my kids have never had to run that fast at a district or area meet, and he just ran what the race dictated. He competed, executed the race, then ran away from everybody and ran that race. And he came off going, oh, I could have gone faster. If they hadn't brake checked me in the first lap, I could have gone 149. But it doesn't matter because the objective at area is to win the race and be in the top four.
Yeah.
Win, like get your focus right, And I'll tell you a really funny story. So my, following a meet a couple weeks ago, Michigan's at a meet, and my son's one of his best friends runs a 146 middle, like blazing fast, 800. And it was a PR. It's like one of the second fastest time in school history or something like that. My son messages me and goes, I'm going to punch him when he gets home because he's done nothing but complain about how awful he feels all week, how every practice was horrible. He wasn't ready to race. He wanted to take another week off. He didn't want to race
Yeah.
till the next week. It was like, he just was like, "Ah, da, 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 da." And he's like, when it came down to it, he couldn't stop competing, and it was a great fast race, and he blew
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
away. And
Yeah.
like the brain kicked in, like he got his mind right. Like my oldest always talks about a lot of his teammates. He thinks too much. He always talks about his teammates are just dumb enough to run fast. And what he means is they're able to let everything go,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like go. And
Just
he
go.
has
Yeah.
trouble doing that. So we always talk about being dumb enough to run fast, and
Yeah.
but like he was laughing because he finally like it all clicked. He went out there, he was like, "Oh, I'd had a horrible week of practice." Complain. Got out there, got excited before the race, boom, goes off,
Yeah. Yeah.
PR. And it was like one of the top 5 times in the NCAAs at the time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just don't know. You have no idea. It's about competing. It's about you've got to learn how to compete.
Yeah.
I always worry. So one of these things I always talk to coaches about. Somebody always said, "Oh, this kid's so fast. He's always really fast." And this is in distance. And I'm like, yeah, but what does he want? Like, why would a college coach want him if he's never actually won a race? Like he doesn't, like, some kids don't know how to win, and that's the
Yeah.
biggest struggle. And they got to get coached on how to win.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
like you can sit in, like if you happen to be in a fast race and you can sit in, but you just don't have the sprint to finish ever. And you never like win, like you never run a tactical race to try to blow up because you just don't take any chances. Like
Hmm.
that's you got to change that mindset. And so yeah, I could
It's
talk. I could.
yeah, I want to say this too. I'm glad you brought it up. Sometimes like with these races, especially when they come to conference and stuff like that, you need to get to the next round. So if you win that race without PR, you're good. You're off to the next round, right? So it's I'm saying that because as a parent, if you go into a conference meeting and for some reason you talk to your kid before they run, telling them they need the PR, and all they need to do is win the race
Yeah.
to move on.
And
It's
sometimes,
yeah,
yeah, it's crazy. But it does sometimes happen, like in the
yeah,
SEC meet in the indoor hurdles. Like, you saw those guys. It's the competition's so good, the level just goes up here.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
sometimes they do. And that's just a
yeah,
function of the race,
yep,
trying to win. It
yep,
doesn't matter how fast they went. Then all of a sudden they look up and they go, "Oh my God, I got a great
yep,
time."
yeah,
But
yep,
they're just
yep,
trying to beat
yep,
each other.
yep,
You line up,
yep,
I line up in my uniform, you line up in
yep,
yours,
yep.
and let's go. That's the beauty of track, right? You just line up every day, and whoever crosses the line has the bragging rights.
Let me ask you this. Too. I got a couple of questions on this data real quick. Um, Melissa Jefferson. So when she graduated high school, she was what, a 12-2, something like that, and went to
Yeah.
Coastal. Um, what would you think her data was looking like in high school? What do you think probably would have flagged in her data in high school
Yeah.
saying, you know what, she might be a Olympic sprinter? I know you might tell somebody that back then, they were like, no way, she's not going to be.
Yeah, this is the problem, is you never know somebody's story and
Yeah,
what they're going through.
yeah,
And um listen, there's nothing that would have flagged it, said, like, just by looking at a number. And that's the biggest I mean, listen, I understand that. Looking at data is just part of the story. And don't
mhm,
ever I don't want anyone to ever think that it's the end all be all. You
mhm,
never know what somebody's going through in their home life, in their
yeah,
personal life, um, nutritionally, training, any of that. What most coaches are looking for, um, is like is somebody who's out there competing and somebody who's a good person. And, she had an opportunity and took it, right? There's lots of those stories, and you want to find those people, but it's there's nothing that data can tell you to do that. That's a coach watching someone and seeing potential. I know coaches in swimming who don't necessarily take the fastest kids. They look at the stroke, and they look how natural the kid is in the water. They look at a variety of things, and they know that there's certain little like fundamental things they can fix that that'll make them faster. Or just they look at their body shape or different things like that. Same thing with running. A good college coach can look at someone and say, I can work with that, and that's where, unfortunately, recruiting has gone off the rails in Division One. There are a lot of problems with coaches who no longer want to take those chances and work with those kids, and they're going to just live in the portal. And I was actually at U20 standing in line last year, and it was a miserable line, waiting because it was just unorganized, and we're just all, I'm with a bunch of college coaches waiting to get a couple of kids' bibs, and strike up with a coach, a Big Ten coach who was in front of me, who said he's never recruiting another high school kid again.
Wow.
And I said, "Oh, so you don't coach anymore?" And I didn't want to sound like an a-hole, but basically I was like, how does that work? So you want to just take people who are fully developed and then, have them score points. And this is a very prominent Big Ten school that doesn't invest a lot in track. Let's just say they do a lot in field. They do a lot in field. And this guy was a throws and jumps coach. And I just was like beside myself. It took every ounce of energy to not start screaming. But that's what we live in now. I have a lot of pet peeves about college track right now. And one of them is that, there are good, my son's got great coaches that they're going to work with. Between Coach Smith and Coach Flo, my son will be great. Those guys want to coach. They want to coach people that want to be coached. Coach Flo isn't going to put up with any BS. And my other son in Michigan with Coach Sully, and just but there are coaches out there who are bringing in transfers, and that's all they're looking for. Or B, going the international route. And I don't have it happens in every sport. It's cyclical. And I don't have that big a problem with it, except for if you tell me that it's worth it. And what I say is you're spending easily $100,000 to pay a service to bring a kid in. And that's fine, because I believe in diversity, and I believe in getting the full college experience. That's one of the things, that most of these teams are international. I'm not against that. That's great experience for my kid. I mean, quite honestly, to get to meet all those people, and they actually, may have an international student living with them next year. But the reality of the situation is if you go too far, and if your whole team is foreign athletes, then you don't have an alumni base. And when your AD is ready to cut a sport, there's no alumni crying because you don't have an alumni base. All those people have taken off. It happens in tennis. It happens in track. It happens in every sport where this has happened. And so there's got to be a good balance. And I think a lot of coaches think, oh, we'll get 4 or 5 of these kids and they'll come in and we'll win a national championship. Only one school wins the national championship. So don't think you're going to bring in a couple of kids and all of a sudden win a national championship.
Yeah.
One school gets to win it. I guess I'm lying. There was a tie last year between USC and A&M, so two schools got to win a national championship. But like, you know, my point is like
Yeah.
it's very rare, and you better it's better that you have a good relationship with your athletic director, and you know, are recruiting kids that and building kids for the future. That's
Mhm.
really what athletic directors want. They don't want to hear
Yeah.
your problems. They don't want you spending all this money. Um, and so to me, it's a real problem. I think some schools are going to get bit by just bringing transfers in and nothing but transfers. I actually talked to a coach during recruiting for my son who
Mhm.
said that they were stepping away. This is a school that had recruited um, bunch of foreign athletes for cross country and said they
Mhm.
weren't going to do it anymore because they when they came in, they were always looking for the next program or they were looking for more money now.
Mm.
And it just wasn't, and they weren't good teammates. There were, and that's not for all of them. You know, I
Yeah.
hear great.
Yeah.
My oldest favorite runner is Doris. You know, at Alabama. You know, you know, Limagale. You know, my oldest loves watching her run, and you know, so it's it's um it's not everybody, but there's you got to deal with team chemistry and you've got to build a team. And so you've got to be really cognizant when you bring in all these people. And it's okay. Some people can leave, some people can come in, but you can't be doing this every year, you know, throwing out 20 and bringing 20 new ones in. That's not going to work on a
So
regular basis.
do you think it's coaches being lazy, or do you think coaches afraid they're going to lose their job?
I think what they do is they fool themselves into thinking they've got to do this to keep their job. And so it is a little bit of lazy. But the reality is, and I'm not going to mention any schools, but there is an SEC school out there who has recruited a lot and done transfer portal a lot. And they have, you know, they're not going to have anybody that stays there, you know,
Mhm.
and the whole guise is under winning a national championship. These
Mhm.
people aren't even going to win the SEC title. You know, like they're not going to win an NCAA championship. They can't win the SEC. So don't fool yourself. Don't go that route. Um, develop. There was a who was it? There was a team in Utah, I believe it was, that brought in a bunch of transfers and foreign students. 100% became 100%, and they got cut. The program got cut, and it was in the West.
Mhm.
And the first thing the coach said is we had no alumni base because we'd been
Oh,
recruiting
wow.
foreign athletes and transfers for so long. So we had nobody cared about our program. And he said, I should have just recruited kids from the Pacific Northwest, you know, because
Mhm.
there's plenty of darn good runners everywhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, develop that and we'd still have a program.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, I think people are going to start to learn that. Like, we're getting ready to go through a huge change. Track and field is going through a major change. And I think there's going to be more where um, there's going to be more cuts. It's a horrible time to be recruited as a high school athlete because everybody's looking at transfers. Everybody's looking at foreign athletes coming in. So it's really hard. Um, as a, you know, when you try to sell the dream of going to college.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't ever want someone to go someplace with the intent of transferring,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh, I'm going to go here, I'm going to kill it, and then I'll transfer. Go to a school that you really want to go to because you might fall in love with it. The other thing is you may end up injuring yourself and never running track again. And you want to be someplace
Yeah.
that you want to be. So, I mean, your track career is finite, you know, and your athletic career is finite. Your
Mhm.
your job career is the next 40 years. You're making a
Yeah.
40-year decision.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to balance that. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot. The opportunities are hard. Like I applaud what you do with your unsigned seniors lists. I I tell parents all the time, you've got to be realistic in where you want to go to school and where you can compete. If you want to compete, there's a school for you. It's a
Yeah.
matter of finding them. And quite honestly, you're probably going to have to make a lot of phone calls and send a lot of emails.
Yeah.
But there's a place for you. And if that's really your goal, and like you can't say, oh, I want to go D1, or I, don't want to do this, or I want to go this. You need to find what's best for you in the it's a 40-year decision. 40-year decision. And you should use that track to get you into school, to help you pay for your school so that you're set for the rest of your life. And so you don't want to make the wrong decision right off the bat. But yeah, it takes a lot of work. We got really lucky. But, like I said, my kids worked really hard in the classroom. They worked really hard on the track. And I'm just proud of them.
And I think sometimes athletes, they push away the wrong coaches because they're too busy focusing on a school that's not even thinking about them in the first place.
We have a good we have some. I'm very familiar with that every day.
Yeah.
My son has friends who don't have a healthy concept of where they should be.
Yeah.
Now maybe that school is a good school for them academically and they should just go there, but go there and run track, they're not good enough. And they're never going to get it. And I'll tell you a really good story. There's a kid that trained with us in Austin, and he went to one of the rival high schools, 6A school. I don't even know if he made it out. He never made it out of area, I don't think. And he went to school at Kansas as an athlete. I mean, as a student, as a student. Went to Kansas. Kansas wouldn't let him walk onto the team. All right. And this was a solid runner. He's a solid runner. But he was like, okay, fine. So he started training like with our coach. He would send him workouts like, okay, this is what you need to do Monday, Tuesday. And he'd go to class, he'd do whatever, and he'd train by himself. He got some buddies he would run with, He did his own training. And then he would enter meets around Lawrence. And there's some great facilities. That facility at in Topeka at what's that Division II school? Just forgot it. Washburn. Washburn has a really cool indoor facility, and he would enter these random meets all over. And colleges will let you run unattached.
Yeah.
This kid spent a year and a half doing this. He just signed with Texas State. He's dropped his times to pretty remarkable in the 1500. And I think he ran a 350 the other day. And this kid was not even a 420 miler. He just developed, he worked at it. And then he wanted to come home, and Texas State, Coach Grizzle's given him a chance, and he's going to run for Texas State. And it was just something he did on his own. Like he could have stayed at Kansas. He was happy to be there, but the dream of running, he just kept training and training and training. And, just started making contacts with coaches, UTSA, Texas State was like, cause that's where his coach knew stuff. And so, and especially because he's in state, it's easier for him to go. It's less expensive, right? So
yeah. It's one of the things you get if you think you good as you say you are. Sometimes you got to bet on yourself.
Yeah, and he was good, and he was a great competitor, and he's a great kid. He just wasn't there as a senior just yet, and somebody could have taken a chance on him, but didn't. Now he's he started lifting. He's done all this other stuff. He does his training, but he's an adult now. He's 20 years old, and now they're looking at him going, my God, he's a diamond in the rough.
Yeah. I just for like the parents, that's listening, they got athletes in the recruiting process. Take the official visits serious. Ask a lot of questions, you know, get the and I always say this too, talk to the athletes away from the coach.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
because
100%.
yeah,
Well, also talk to the athletes away from whoever your host is.
yeah,
Your host is usually a great kid,
yeah,
wonderful kid, and a great representative of the team, you know? But go talk to some of the other kids that because they'll take you to talk to the other kids. And then you like,
yeah,
because that kid's been coached as to
yeah,
how to behave and how to
yeah,
answer questions. Go
yeah,
talk to the ones. I'll tell you what, that's been eye opening for my kids. And I agree. And you're representing yourself. You don't show up looking like a slouch, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Again, you're interviewing for a job. It's a job,
exactly.
and
Yep,
coaches, this is their job, so they take it
yeah,
very seriously.
yeah,
So you've got to, yes, you've got a yes sir, yes ma'am, no
hmm,
sir, no ma'am. That's y- those little bitty things go a long way. And in showing a coach that you are there for the right reasons.
yeah,
I mean,
yep,
I've the horror stories I've heard. I've my buddies who work in different sports um, have told me about kids walking in and asking for X amount of money right off the bat. Whether it's football or baseball or basketball, it's like, oh my God. And so they know immediately are like, what can you give me? What can you get? No, it's not that. It's like, so what are you got to ask questions about like what you're interested in. Are you interested in nursing? Okay, do they have a good nursing school? What can you tell me about that? Because like, where do your graduates go? Like where do they go work? Those sorts of things. You act like you've actually done some homework before you get there. That's the other thing. Do your
yeah,
homework. I
yeah.
had a list. Every time we go on a recruiting trip, I
Uh,
had a list of every coach, where they went to school, and where they'd coached. And I had it in a notepad on my
yep,
phone, and everybody in my family had access to it if they wanted it.
yep,
And
yep,
so if you got stuck with the throws coach, talking to them for a few minutes, I knew the Beavers. I knew that they coached at OU, even though they're at
yep,
Michigan now. Have a
yep.
great talk with them. We joke about OU Texas rivalry, because we're from Texas. We're up in Michigan visiting. Having those conversations lets them know that you've put in the work and that you're paying attention. I mean, I did. I always do. Me. I'm one of those people that just like a little over the top, but that's something. You know, way too often everybody's looking out for what I can get when in actuality you need to let them know that you're serious and you want to be there.
So I'm laughing because I made a post. This I like to make posts. I like to make posts all the time. So this is
Ever,
another
ever,
post. But
yeah,
so I posted that all athletes will not get all elite athletes will not get full scholarships to college. And
yeah,
people jumped all over.
it's the truth. I mean, like, I'll tell you what, I, I, I'm just gonna let you know that even schools that say they fully fund all their scholarships don't fully fund their scholarships because I'm just going to say, for instance, a school that I know of that gives, let's say they have 35 fully funded men's scholarships. That means they have 30. Now, one school may really have fully funded 35 scholarships. This school has fully funded, but it's state tuition, in-state tuition. So,
Mm-hmm.
so an international student costs 2.5 of those, and or you know, so and people don't understand the math behind tuition in general. They don't understand that for every dollar they give you they have to pay to the university. They're paying your tuition. It goes.
Yeah.
People don't understand. There's an athletic department and there's an academic side, and very
Mhm.
few schools don't pay money to their academic side. I only know of one right now, and that's Texas A&M. I believe they've worked out a thing where they do not have to pay their tuition to the academic side right now, which is a huge benefit for them. It's several $1 million a year. Now, as you know, some schools will give you in-state tuition as an out-of-state athlete. Unfortunately for me, Michigan is not one of them, but a lot of schools do that, and that's another thing to ask. Hey, do you offer in-state tuition for athletes? My son actually wrote a proposal to the athletic director with several other students. They put together a committee, and there's a committee that he's a part of, and they wrote a proposal about how it would benefit the university by allowing students just to have athletes to have in-state tuition because of the benefits and the publicity they're bringing the school, and it really doesn't cost the university that much. Mm-hmm. And so there's always that kind of stuff too. It's everybody assumes your kid's going to run track, they're on a full scholarship. It's not true. Now, if you want a full scholarship and that's important to you, and that you get that, then you got to change. You got to really open up your boundaries, because there are schools, if you're an elite athlete, that'll give it to you. Mm-hmm. But you may not be in the SEC. You might not be at a Power 4 school. You might be that kid. I mean, trust me, Tate Taylor's different than my kid, and my kid's an elite. My kid's a top kid. Yeah. But like, there are levels of success. Trust me. For sure. And then the flip side is some schools, if you get athletic aid, don't give you any academic aid. Mm-hmm. And then and then this whole, like, depending on where you are in financial aid, that's a whole nother thing. So there are all these three pools of money, and schools play that game very differently.
Oh yeah.
I had a kid. We had a kid from Austin who was looking at a school up east and was offered X amount of money just for athletic. And they said anything you get from the academic side would be on top of that. And he kind of held off because he wanted to know if he got better offers, this, that, and the other. They ended up rescinding the athletic offer. And then when he got his academic and financial aid package, it was exactly the other. So if he'd taken it, he'd have gotten double.
Yeah. Yep. That money don't stick around long. No. That's why. Yeah.
So there, it's a game. They're all playing it. It's especially in this day NIL. I know there's quite a few schools just throwing around cash too. Oh, we'll give you books, but then we'll give you $10,000. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on, which they aren't. Trust me. I've been on a couple of those phone calls.
And I tell parents on my show, like when I'm on a live show, I say this all the time. As a parent, when you're on this, when y'all out going on visits and it's time to talk offers, and you in that room with the head coaches across the table from you, you got to be a negotiator. That's what it is.
And don't be surprised if they won't talk to you on your visit, because there have been quite a few instances at both of my kids' schools that they end up signing with, that they said, we don't talk about offers on official visits because we gotta, they're going to do all sorts of evaluations. Mm-hmm. They've got it depends on where they are in the recruiting cycle. Yeah. Unless they are ready to make an offer, they're not making an offer. So don't push it. It's an open conversation. Yep. And they always say, hey, listen, we don't talk about this. We don't, we wait till the next week. We meet, we talk, then we call you. Mm-hmm. And then, or it's this date. We're not making any decisions till November 1st or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? Most schools are organized that they have a system, and it's all different. And so don't be afraid to ask, but also don't feel like they hate you when they say, no, we're holding off and not making any offers till November.
And I go ahead.
Yeah, no. And I just think parents get a little anxious. I know I was, but it's just the way it happens.
Yeah. I think one of the things too is like, You go on a visit, you look at the school and all that good stuff. If you're not, if they don't bring up an offer, talking to money or whatnot, you might not be the number one person they're looking at. So, you could be the second or third, because you got to think about it too. Sometimes if you that number one going down there, they might talk some money with you when you get down there. Every school is different. Every school operates different. But
Yeah.
if you leave that school and they didn't make you an offer, do not stop your recruiting process and stop going to schools and all that.
Yeah. Well, I always think every time we've gone, to a school, we've asked what the process is when we're with the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, like, how do you handle this? First trip we went on, we were clueless, and we had, and so it was getting towards the end, and the head coach actually pulled everybody together and said, listen, I just want to tell you, we've really enjoyed having all y'all here. And he did it as a group. And he said, we don't, I don't want anybody to feel like we're pulling people aside and giving offers or doing anything like that. We're not. We're trying to have individual conversations. We love to get to know y'all one-on-one. But we're going to do this in a week. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. We went on a recruiting visit with 8 people, 10 people. I don't know, whatever it was. When we went to Texas, there were quite a few. And Flo had gotten in from China the night before. He was half asleep. He had been at Worlds or whatever, and he was like,
with
Alfred. Yeah. And so but it was funny, but he's very open. He's like, he tells you like it is, yeah, we're not going to make a decision. We're starting this. We're not doing anything till last week of October, first week of November. We will talk to you. Yes, you're on our list. You are. We love you. We think very highly of you. But just know that we're, hopefully that's good with you, that you can wait. We understand if you can't. And it's been great. Every coach has been great having that conversation.
Yeah.
Now it's nerve-wracking as a parent, but yes.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, they make that list and they go by that list, and it's kind of one of them things. It's a decision the family and the athlete's going to have to make. Are we going to wait for the call back, or do we trust what this coach is telling us, or are we going to continue on our next visit?
And my advice is continue on with the visits. It always looks better. It's like the piece of advice my father said: never quit your job until you have the next job.
Yep.
When you're employed, you look employable to the next guy. So don't quit your job thinking you're going to get a job, because they're going to be like, why doesn't he have a job? Why you want people to want you, and when another school, they see another school's recruiting you, they're like, oh, it's confirmation bias, it's that whole thing. So I would never stop. I also, as a parent, you've got to stop making up stories in your own head of why they're not calling or why they are calling or this, because you can make yourself crazy. That's my advice.
It's that recruiting process is stressful.
It is. I'm glad I'm done with it. I'm done with it. The thing about it is, and you're probably the same way. Your daughter's getting a hell of an education at Indiana. It's a fantastic university. If something, God forbid, happened to her, she's got teammates, she's got a support staff. They would take care of her. She's going to graduate with a great degree and be able to be employed. That's what I think about my kids. My son's at Michigan. Track hasn't gone the way he wanted it to go, his results, but his friendships, his teammates, his academics are through the roof. The alumni base, all that stuff. And then my other one, going to Texas, same thing. Can't beat it. He's in McCombs. He's going to be in the business school. It's next to impossible to get into that just directly these days.
Yeah.
He got in, like he's going to do that. It's what he wants to do. If something went wrong, he knows that's where he would want to be anyway. That's the bottom line. Like, God forbid, if something would happen, you want to be somewhere that you want to be, even if you're not running.
Yeah. You definitely got to go somewhere where you think you're gonna be successful in life. Not only track, but in life. And I like the way you said it. You're planning. We're going to a right school. You're planning for the next 40 years when you graduate. The track thing is kind of it's a short-term thing. It's going to end. We don't know when it's going to end, but it will. But what are you going to do after that? Because you got to set yourself up, to live a comfortable life.
Exactly. I talked to Coach Grizzle yesterday at Texas State. He's the distance coach there. Great guy. Finally, I got to know him. I just happened to be. I'm on a committee at that university for analytics and data science in the business school. And I was down there, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be on campus. You want to meet?" And so we just started talking, and we were talking about the same sort of things. And he said one of the first conversations he has with these guys, with his guys, are, none of you are going to be pros at this. There's a guy down the hall who is the current world record holder. He's working here, training, but he's a volunteer system. But it's like this isn't. You're here to get an education and be successful in life, and that's my job. I'm also here to make you a good runner. But like, I want you to understand it's the full package. You're not coming here just to run track. You're coming here to make friends, to be, as he calls it, a pack, because he likes his runners. He likes a pack, and to get that next, it's a we always talk about it. It's, college is a 40-year decision.
Yeah. It's, and I hate to hear it, especially in, with the youth and track and field. I get it. That's the first thing that come out of their mouth. I want to go to the Olympics. There's nothing wrong with it. But
goals are great.
Goals are great, but you want to make sure you have a plan B. And when they tell me that, I'm like, okay, cool. So when you go to college, what you want to major in? What's your major? You've been thinking about that? I think they're just part of it,
You know what? Being a college teacher, and I also taught high school and middle school for 8 years. Like I said, I've got a weird background. The one thing you have to do, as far as my advice for kids when they do that, is I don't care. Like, my son says he wants to be a finance major at Texas. He got in, great. He may find something else he prefers. The 18-year-old brain is not fully developed. We all know that, right? They grow up, they find out what they want to do, and they will do it. What I always tell them is, find something you like. You've got to like something, and something has to interest you. And so find that passion and see how that, like, if you can study that, or if there's something around that. Like, I was very fortunate to be at an awards banquet on Sunday with my son, and we were around some of the top students in the class, and there's this girl sitting across from us, and she's going to UT, but she's like won all these awards in art. Okay. But she doesn't want to go to college in art, even though that's her life. She loves her art. She's going and getting, an environmental science and biology degree, because that's her other passion. And she's going to have an art minor, and so she's going to combine a couple of things that she really likes. And I thought that's perfect. This kid's going to be successful. This is why she's successful now, is she understands, I can environmental science and biology is is good for my career. But art is my creative engine, right? That really helps me learn other things. And you never know when that's going to come into play in your job, keeping that creativity going. So I don't know. I try to advise kids to be as think about yourself. What do you really like? I mean, there's nothing worse than asking a teenager what they like, and they go, I don't know. Like
I know,
like
yeah, right, yeah,
you don't have to tell me you love math. You don't have to tell me you love history or English or any of that. But tell me what you like. What are your
yeah,
interests?
yeah.
Um, you like music? Have you ever thought about going into the music industry? There's a lot of schools that offer music business degrees. You know, things of that nature. Eh, there's a million things you can go do with their life that turn out to be pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah. I seen a post. I was in this track group. They was talking about a particular athlete. They're like, "Oh, what happened to this athlete? She fell off when she went to college, and this and this and this." I'm just like, she graduated with a master's degree. What
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
do you
Um,
mean she fell off?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy, I listened to a speaker yesterday who didn't know what he wanted to do out of college and was a philosophy major and ended up like getting a job in in some like medical lab.
Mm,
And it turned out, oh, that was a lot of fun. And it just so happened to be a brain science thing. So we got back and got his PhD in like brain science or something. And now he works. He works. He then started working for the military, and now he's started up his own company that has to do with you know technology. It has nothing to do with any of this other stuff. But he started out having no clue. Philosophy major. I mean, what do you do with like most parents go, what do you want? I mean, it's a great degree, but it's it's a thinking degree, right?
yeah,
He was always
yeah,
thinking. And so
yeah,
that's the benefit of that degree is something that interests him. And then he
yeah.
started finding other things that interested him. And having that degree helped him. And then he saw, I want another degree. So yeah, never be afraid to get another degree. Never be afraid to change what you want to do.
Mm,
I got a master's degree when I was 48 years old. So, you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's education is important, and you got to build. You got to build your life, while you're in college, because that I think is a critical point when they're in college because it can go either way.
yeah,
It can really go either way because for one, you don't have your parents around that's pushing you to do this and do that. You got to make you're making your own decisions more when you go off to college, and you got to be another thing. You got to be careful um, with who you're hanging around.
yep,
You just make sure and I'm speaking to the student athletes, make sure you surround yourself with positive people who have goals. All right. Yeah,
yeah.
they got to have goals.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where, and I think that's where being on a team, on a track team, it's kind of like being on a swimming team. Your practices are so much, you don't have a whole lot of free time.
Yeah.
And so that's one real good thing. And if you have a good team, and if you're going to a school and you like the people on the team and you want to hang out with them,
Yeah.
and your daughter's probably the same way. I don't know if she lived in the dorms first year or whatever. My son
Mhm.
did.
Yeah.
Living in the dorms with his teammates and other people, he's got friends now. Like when the team's away, he goes and visits other athletes, or
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
same things. Or he goes and visits his other friends who were in the dorm with him. That's what
Yeah.
So it was funny. He sent me a picture the other day. He didn't travel with the team because he was studying for his exam, and he sent me a picture. He was at the house with all the girls tennis team because they just won the Big Tens, and they had the Big Ten championship
Oh, really?
trophy in the middle of the kitchen.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and he's like, He's like, hey, guess where I am? I'm like, I have no idea, but I think it's a girl's house because it says Women's Big Ten Championship. And he goes, yeah, I'm here with the women's tennis team. We're all having fun. Like, I'm like, all right.
Yeah, that college experience, man. It's something. It's something nice. Yeah, they'll meet. They're gonna meet lifelong friends there.
Yep.
And it's good for athletes to experience that. But the main thing is just have a plan B. And make sure you being serious about your academics there, and not just when it's time to pick classes, you just picking stuff because you're just gonna be here one semester because you plan on going to another school because you don't like
Yeah.
the coach anyway. It's a bunch of stuff. So
That's my biggest fear with this transfer portal is these kids who transfer 4 times. What kind of degree are they getting? And what
yeah,
kind of educational support are they getting? Because okay, you graduate from school 4. You were there 1 year. Does the alumni base really care about you? I mean, you weren't there but 1 year and you were on a team and academic services doesn't know you real well. Um, there's so many benefits to being in a system.
yeah, yeah,
Like the
yeah,
mental health. I mean, we've talked about this,
yeah.
the mental health support, the physical support, the
Mm-hmm.
coaching support, the mentoring. Michigan has this great thing where all the student athletes, when they talk about what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
the department gives them names of people, alumni who do that and say, these people have volunteered to be mentors or to talk to you. And so
Mm-hmm.
they can call them and talk to them. And like those kind of things matter and, for your future. And it's not just getting by, of course, having fun's the point as well. You have to have
Yeah,
fun, but like you're there to run track and you're there to get a
yeah,
degree because 99% of you, 99.9% of you aren't going to be able to do this professionally.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
And that's true. That's very true. And a lot of people don't know. Well, a lot of kids don't know that a lot of those professional athletes you see on TV, they got full-time jobs. So
yeah, all these track guys do. You hear the great stories, Cordell Tinch, some of these other hurdlers, guys who just, I mean, they grinded working for UPS or
yeah,
whatever or
yeah,
Home
yeah,
Depot. It's just,
yeah,
unfortunately, it's the way that it is. But uh, a few people do make money. I'm not
yeah,
going to say they don't. There are people who do make money, but n- not everybody is there,
yeah,
and that's a very limited number of
yeah,
folks.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, I wish, I'm happy to talk about this stuff. This has been a lot of fun, and I I could talk for days. I could talk for days about this stuff because I care about it and I care about helping kids get to
yeah,
schools. Um, you know, I I love going to these track meets, and I'm probably like you. Go to the state track meet. You know the big names. You learn about other people,
hmm,
and then you start following them in college.
yeah.
It started for me in high school. I graduated high school '83, and state tennis used to be the same weekend as state track. And I don't know, I'm old enough. I'm one of those old people that remember that the tennis courts for Texas were actually attached to the track back in those days, back in
Oh,
the
really?
80s.
Oh, wow.
They were on the south end,
Yeah.
and that so we could be up there. And I remember 1983, had to be 83 or 82. We're in this tennis stadium overlooking. We hear this announcement that James Lott from Refugio is about to attempt the national high jump record. 7 4 3/4 or whatever he did,
Hmm.
and we all go tearing around the corner, and the guys let us in, and
Hmm.
we watched him do it. But at night we used to go to the state track meet, and um, I was there when that guy from Southwest ran the 9.8, whatever it was, 9.86, 9.4. But I
Hmm.
saw I was, I saw Roy Martin run back in the day. The history of the state track meet in Texas is phenomenal. And even though I was a tennis player, I followed it,
Mhm.
and would go every year, would try to go to some of the state track meet. It's just, it, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a unique sport, and I enjoy watching it myself. This we probably about an hour over. I can talk to.
yeah.
I, I can talk to, but this is gonna be our last question here, Coach. What's one piece of advice you would give to every track parent?
Love your kids. Love your kids. Support your kids. Be a positive influence for your kids. We we're we're all human beings, and we all fail at that at some point, where we parent, we get in there and parent. But just remember, um, they're looking at you for guidance, even when they don't want to, even when they're
Yeah,
teenagers.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so just do that, be the support. um, yeah, I think that's where I stand with it. It's one of those things. In the recruiting, my kids ran all their own recruiting. I would check in
mhm,
on them. I made them manage it, organize it, report to me every once in a while how it was going.
mhm.
Um, but let them be independent. Raise independent kids,
Yeah,
and you'll sleep a little bit better. I'm not going to
yeah,
say. I had someone once tell me, as your kids get older, the problems just get bigger. But
yeah, yeah,
you're always going to worry about your kids. But I
yeah,
think if that's what I had to say, just love them
yeah.
and treat them to be responsible adults, and everything will work out.
Yeah, yeah, that's good stuff, Coach. And I always laugh when people say, "Yeah, once my kid go off to college, they're gonna be gone. I'm gonna be doing this, having fun." Nah, when they go to
Yeah,
college, you got a whole set of new college problems to deal with.
yeah, yep, yep. I was sitting with my wife and the dog, and we were joking around. It's just going to be us three next year, and but yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's yeah, you're always worried about them, and always,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
parent. That's what you are. That's
yeah.
you're that, so
Yeah,
that's your
yeah,
job.
yeah, for sure. Love on your kids. Just be there, support them, especially when they're in college, because it's tough out there.
Yeah,
I guarantee you, they are stressed. They might not tell you they are, but
right.
they are.
They try to
So
shield you. They try to shield
because
you.
yeah, they
Yep.
try to they're not going to tell you everything, but reach out to them, call them. If they
Yeah.
just want to hold the phone, just hold the phone with them about 10, 20 minutes. And they go.
It, not yeah. It's one of those things where, every kid's different, but yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah,
if they're it is the toughest thing to let your kid go, but
yeah,
it is
yeah,
rewarding as
yeah,
heck,
yeah,
to know that they're successful at their
yeah,
next thing. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking forward to the next phase,
yeah, yeah,
where I do even less organizing for the
yeah,
team, and I'm just traveling around, check in on
yeah,
them, and or the other one when he finally graduates
yeah.
next year.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this, and we gonna get out of here. Like when my daughter went off to college. I had a tough time. My wife like, "Are you gonna be all right?" I'm like,
I cry easily,
I did-
and I cry. We yeah.
uh,
Picking him up at the airport the first time, I cried. Dropping him off, I
yeah,
cried.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm right
yeah,
there, which it was rough. Yeah, my
yeah.
wife, she's like, "Well, I'm doing better than you." I'm like, "Yeah, you are doing better than me, right?"
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'll call you in August when I have to drop off the next one.
All right, Coach. You got any shout outs to anybody or anything before we
Nah,
get out of here?
I'm just appreciative to all the coaches that have taken the time to talk to me. Um, even the guys like Mike, from Gill,
Oh yeah,
everybody who's
Mike's a good
involved
guy.
in track, like
Yeah,
everybody, I met him in Eugene. Just said, hey, I love, I got to follow you on Twitter. Watched his thing with you. Like
Uh,
all these people. It's phenomenal. If you see me at the state track meet, come up and say hi. If you have a question, please don't hesitate. I've gotten a little bit off Twitter because of TweetDeck doesn't really work unless you pay the most. So I stopped doing that. So I've got to get back going. But I'm out there. I have a website. I'm going to start writing some more. And
what's your
feel
website? What's your website,
yes.
Coach?
So it's SIXMAN.GURU, sixman.guru. And that's I also have another website, but people don't know it's me. I have a track website that people don't know it's me, but I don't want to really say what it is because, well, there's a project called the Texas Distance Project, and I'm actually the person behind that. So it's I cover 800, 1600, 3200, and I write articles, texasdistanceproject.com. So this is the first time I've told anybody other than my wife that it's me, but I really love all the kids, the camaraderie that these kids have at these meets. They race and they compete, but at the end of the day, they become friends and lifelong friends. And that's the way it was with me in tennis. So I just love giving publicity to that. I'm not sure how much longer I'll run that website, but
Awesome.
look me,
awesome.
if you have a question for me, just ask.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna put that. I see you have some articles here. I just pulled it up. I'm gonna drop that website in the comments there, and guys, y'all go check it out.
Yeah. And then I've got the one about the 800 at sixman.guru, the one on that how to run the 800. So there's some interesting stuff. I'm gonna actually have more stuff coming up pretty soon.
Nice.
All
right, Coach. Appreciate you. Good show. Good talk. We didn't get to all the questions, but maybe next time. It was fun.
We'll do a 4-hour podcast next time.
I know, right? 4 hours next time. We'll break the 2-hour record. Huh?
I'm sorry.
All right, Coach. You have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.
The champs is here.
Yo, we out here on the track when the dreamers run. Each step a testament, yeah, we get it done. Crushing all the hurdles, breaking through the pain. The Texas sun shines bright as we train in the lane. Push it to the limit, never look back. Texas Track Dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. From Dallas to Houston, yeah, we're raising the bar. Every athlete's story, every victory a star. We hustle on the field, focus sharp like a spear. The clock's ticking down, but the finish line is near. With every single stride, we own the sound. Texas Track Dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. From Dallas to Houston, yeah, we're raising the bar. Every athlete's story, every victory a star. We hustle on the field, focus sharp like a spear. The clock's ticking down, but the finish line is near. With every single stride, we own the sound. Texas Track Dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. So lace up your shoes, let the journey commence. Texas Track Dad, we build the suspense.